Greetings, everyone. Welcome back. We are in Chapter 5 talking about market research. And as this whole semester has built, we start at the beginning in Chapter 1 building a base of what this whole marketing thing is and how it fits into our hospitality, tourism, recreation, event world. Secondly, we look at the kind of foundation or base of great marketing, and that's both the quality of the experience and the delivery of that experience. So, what are we even offering to people, and is our why personally and organizationally really solid? And are we in this business for the right reason? Because it certainly will make marketing of that a lot easier. Secondly, in the way we deliver that experience, is it viewed as high quality by all the different stakeholder groups we're looking at? Please always remember we're looking not only at the external customer, but the internal, which is an employee, a volunteer, a board member, a supplier, the variety of stakeholders that we will serve and that we're interested in serving. So as we look and continue moving, we then set the stage last week about the whole marketing plan process and how we want to be strategic about organizing what we do and how we do it and why we do it. That has built, again, from that strong base of high quality is the base of all great marketing. So the base of a marketing plan as we move into Chapter 5 is all about big data. And big data is probably the hottest term in the marketing world in the last year or two, and it is so because we know now without question that data will drive decision making and that the power of information helps us, again, be better marketers but be more successful organizations. So this whole idea in Chapter 5 is all about market research, and we're going to break that down into two separate components. One is a kind of a foundation of what and how will we organize this big data, and how do we define it, how do we simplify it, how do we take this really overwhelming facet of information and sources and streamline it down into the second part, which is the beginning of market planning. So first we're going to talk in this first section about what it is, what it looks like, how we think about it, and then secondly we're going to move into very, very pragmatically and very systematically what kind of information are we going to gather and generate so it'll help us move forward in this marketing plan process. So having said all that, welcome back. We're ready to get started. We've got a couple of video clips I want to share with you, some other people's insight during this. So as we move forward, let's introduce you to some other folks as well today. So as we think about market research, I want you to think about it in a very simple definition, and that's a systematic and objective process of generating information that we're going to use to make marketing decisions, as simple as that. And what I do know is that, again, it makes marketing really simplified and really a lot easier when I have this solid base of insight and information that makes anyone make a good decision kind of idea. So again, go back to Chapter 1 and the premise that anybody can make a marketing decision, but not anyone's going to be successful at it. We could have spent a marketing budget and we could make decisions today, and organizations do, but are they making them for the right reasons and the most solid reason? And if I'm going to make a decision, let me make it the most effective decision out of the sea of opportunities and choices that I have. So on a very simple level, we're going to go out, get a bunch of information, and we're going to use that to help us make better decisions. When we move into Chapter 6, which is all about marketing strategy and looking more specifically at market planning in terms of how we do that, we're going to utilize market research. But I've kind of broken that up into two steps because information gathering can be and feel very overwhelming. So again, how do we start the process of learning about market research in Chapter 5? And again, I've broken it down into three things that we're going to end up utilizing in Chapter 6 as we determine for this organization or any organization you're working for interning, what are we going to do, why are we doing it, and then how are we going to make that happen. So to premise that whole, really introduced more in Chapter 6, but it relates here, is because we're going to start building a strategy for this organization, but we have to use market research or big data as that foundation base. So this template you see in front of you is one of two that we utilize in market planning, in my goal or objective to simplify the process, but also utilize all the tools in the process. Kind of taking it from that, here are theoretically all the things we need, and how do I present that in a way that is less intimidating, because it's overwhelming, to be perfectly honest. So to do so, I've really divided our whole market plan process into two facets. One is a strategy worksheet, and the other is a tactical or communication worksheet. So for the next several chapters, we're going to be utilizing this strategy worksheet, chapters 5, 6, kind of moving into chapter 7. These three will utilize this worksheet. And although you'll never give me this worksheet back, what it does is organize and provide a framework for what we're doing right now in this marketing plan. So market research is utilized in the bulk of this plan. And we're going to need to gather data throughout all of these areas to help us make better decisions in the second worksheet, which is the rest of the marketing plan, the tactical side of the plan. Now, when you reviewed marketing plans last week, you'd notice that the real organization marketing plans, it varies greatly in terms of how much information or data that they shared in those plans. And in general, they're more tactical plans. They're telling you who they're going after and what they're doing to go after them, the actions they're going to take. What marketing plans in organizations tend to not include is this whole assessment piece, because one of several reasons. One is they're not gathering the data. Two, even if they're gathering it, they might not be utilizing it, but maybe they're utilizing it and just not presenting it. I venture to say it's one of the first two reasons. One is they're not gathering any data, or they're not utilizing the data that they have, that they gather naturally. And I hope that'll make some better sense in a second. Every organization has data. Every organization may or may not be using that data to help them make decisions. So recognize that our goal here in our marketing plan process is first to do these assessments on the first level. Chapter 6, we're going to do an organizational assessment. But right now we're going to take a step back and do some of the other assessments to better gather market research data to help us build our strategy in Chapter 6. So more specifically, what we're going to do is use big data to understand all of these elements, and we're going to break it down assignment by assignment to make it easier to understand and absorb. Again, generally, one of the barriers to market planning is people don't know how, or it's too overwhelming, or it changes too rapidly. So we're going to try and simplify that and give actual tools to be used to develop a stronger strategy easier than maybe what organizations have done in the past. So by introducing those concepts to you, you can better understand how this all fits together. Again, recognizing that most of you will not be the one responsible for developing this marketing plan one day, but you understanding and knowing when you lead this organization will help build that framework one day in your career, that you understand how to move this marketing function more successfully forward. So our job is to gather this big data, and why do we want to do that is of critical concern. And what is this whole change about how data is driving decision making more than it ever has before? Here's a quick case study of how big data is being used by Caesars Entertainment. And this quick article, as you, in fact, take a second and read it. So this quick example by SAS helps us see how information, bigger data, real-time data is being used in terms of marketing, service, and customer loyalty. And they're looking at every little distinction of service again. So go back to Chapter 3 in Quality and Malcolm Baldrige Award-winning Ritz-Carlton. this is really no different. They're looking at every little element of their delivery and how data and information can help real-time understanding customers, whether they're checking into our hotel and we remember that they like fluffy pillows versus, or feather versus foam pillows, that they like water in their room versus orange juice, that we have that data and information and we store it and we utilize it from all aspects of the service experience, loyalty programs and marketing, reaching out to people and helping them build value. So we see more and more examples of big data, and really what we need to do as an organization, if we go back to chapter 1 and I said to you, what are we supposed to be doing in 2020 in terms of consumers? Well, in terms of information, we need to gather big data. So we need to first use what we already generate. I work in HTM organizations all the time, and there is data laying around that is not being utilized that we generate as part of business, or we've generated specifically, but we're not utilizing. One of my favorite things to do is to go into an organization and help them find all the data that is laying around and show them how that data and information can be helpful. One was a private country club, and they had tee time reservations for their golf course, and they had membership data because they had applications that everybody had to fill in. And so right there were two pieces of data that they were never utilizing and helping them be strategic. So for example, the tee time reservations, by analyzing tee times by day of week, month, time of day, right, over time, we could quickly ascertain that the busiest day for this golf course was a Saturday. It actually wasn't. Surprisingly, this country club's busiest day was a Sunday. Who would know? I wouldn't have guessed that. I'm not sure you would have guessed that either. The slowest day, do you want to take a guess? You probably thought a Monday or a Tuesday, and in this case, it was a Tuesday. So now that we had data about that, I could also tell you by time of day what their busiest day and time was by day. So as a marketer, how I use that information is I don't need to develop a marketing communication plan to help this country club fill a Sunday or a Saturday, right, during the hours of 8 and 2. What I needed to do was help this country club generate business on Tuesday. The Tuesdays were open, so we could develop a marketing campaign to all the members and do something to generate more participation or use, whether it was an outing, whether it was lessons or leagues, right? But fill that time. Too often in our field, because we have this inventory that is lost every day in the service business, if we don't fill our hotel with occupancy, right, it's opportunity lost. If I don't fill this event venue in my 10,000 seats, I've lost that every day that something didn't get consumed, right? So I'm a bowling center and my lanes don't get filled all day long, I'm open. Opportunity loss. I never recapture that in our business. So it's critical that we understand our business in terms of what our patterns of business are. As a marketer, I won't operate without that information because anybody can fill a Saturday or Sunday at a golf course between 8 and 2, right? I need to be strategic about what I'm helping this organization do, and I need to understand those patterns of business across time. So the information is laying there at that country club, but it's laying there for all our organizations. The question is, have we analyzed it in a way that it's useful? So that's one of my favorite things to do to go into our organization, is to look at data that's laying around that we can use. So go back to that country club and the data from the membership information that they all filled out when they became a member was laying there. The organization couldn't tell me how many members they had in what age group, geographically where they were from, yet it was all sitting there. So the first thing you do is grab the files, download the data set, whether it was in Excel or another membership database, and quickly I can analyze number of members by ages, by genders, by geography, so I know where we're reaching them and where we're not reaching them. So again, in this example, and again I can go on and on and on, but I won't. We have in organizations data laying around that is critical for us to understand to be better marketers. We conduct research in areas we have questions that can further help us. In the future, we want to do it in valid and reliable ways. We want to make sure we have research skills so we can identify a problem that exists and conduct the research ourselves to figure out the answer to that question. So as we in our curriculum start to require students in our programs to have research skills, that is a vital component to effective operations of a business, but it certainly is vital to us at this stage in this game too. So we have to know how to conduct research, and we have to know how to do so in a valid and reliable way, because anybody can gather data. They don't necessarily gather it the right way. And we've seen errors in questions, the way they're asked. We see errors in analysis. We see errors across all kind of the 5 steps of the primary research process, from identifying clearly what our objectives are or our problem, to correctly picking a method that we can use to generate that information. Is it an online survey? Is it a focus group kind of idea? Then again, collecting the data itself, analyzing the findings that we have, and then making conclusions and recommendations from that. There are 5 steps to the primary research process. We need to have the skills to do that, and in 2020 our organizations have to. We make it an integral part of doing business. It's not just a luxury, it's a necessity anymore. That we, again, will adopt as an industry a big data mentality, that we all are gathering, analyzing, and making decisions from information. It's not a luxury anymore. We value it, like so many organizations are doing already, but I'm not sure we're there again. If we looked at that across history chart, if we're stuck in the 90s, we are dabbling in research and gathering data, but we have a long way to go in this area. And then again, collectively, we embrace this concept of big data to drive our decisions and form the base of marketing decision making. I hope you and our industry overall will quickly realize the power of data and information and know how to gather it, conduct it, and will utilize it on a regular basis. I will guarantee better marketing decisions are made as a result. Garbage in is garbage out. We want good stuff in, and it's going to help us make great things happen. It's interesting to me, the best jobs in U.S. News and World Report this last year suggest that 2 jobs in particular are the hottest jobs. Number 1 and number 2, if you notice, are a market research analyst and an operations research analyst. It's no irony that the hottest 2 jobs and the best jobs right now are about those who can gather big data from a market research standpoint, the consumer, but operations research too. So regardless of your interest again in marketing, this is the wave of the future across all disciplines in our field. Data drives decisions, period. So in our effort of big data, I want to share with you some insight in the hospitality industries specifically. We have a friend of our program. His name is John Madigan. He runs Pictured Rocks Cruises and other cruise companies around Michigan, a beautiful part of Michigan if you have not been. So do visit the Pictured Rocks area. And he talks about how, as this boat company, really, right? Cruise line, cruise company on the Great Lakes, so you can see beautiful aspects of the Great Lakes. He is using data to drive his decisions. And again, small business operation using data every day. So I'm at a conference, a governor's conference on tourism, and I capture his comments about data. So take a look.
What?
You gather data.
So we gather data from every customer that comes to Pictured Rocks. So we know that Grand Rapids is our #1 demographics, and last year we took about 2,150 people from Grand Rapids. Number 2 was Ann Arbor, about 1,900. So our foreign country, we had 45 foreign countries. We had every state in the country to come. All 50 states came at the minimum, from 25 from Alaska. So we know that We know 60% of our business is Michigan-based. Okay? We know that Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor together have more people to Pictures Rocks than 45 foreign countries. So those two markets brought more people than 45 foreign countries. We know that Canada's number one with about 1,000 visitors. So all that data. So what does that do? We say, well, that's really nice. What does it mean? It means that when we start putting out advertising dollars, so we do a trade show, we do the Grand Rapids RV and Outdoor Show, and we go down and hand it out. We know that that is a good return because last year it went up. Grand Rapids went up about 12 or 14%. Okay, we know that we want to place our billboards in those demographics. We know that 60% of our business comes from Michigan, but if you include Ohio, Indiana, all the states south of us, okay, well, 85% of our business comes through Michigan to our attraction. So 85%. So if you're going to buy billboards, okay, that's pretty important information to say where you're going to put those billboards. So we buy 70 billboards between Michigan and Wisconsin. And most of those are placed strategically from Flint, Lansing, Grand Rapids, north on the main corridors. We want to hit them at least 5 to 8 times between those population centers and the Mackinac Bridge. Why? Because we know a lot of people are going to Mackinac, and we're trying to get that message to them when they're coming up the expressway, and maybe they might come over and visit us. So that is really, really important. So we know last year we grew 6.6%. We know where we grew. We know which states we grew in. We know which states we didn't grow in. And so all that data comes in. Is so important. We track our traffic every day. We have grids. We know that Saturday's our busiest day. Right. Saturday's our number one day. We know that we do 2/3 of our business in July and August. We do 1/3 of our business in May, June, September, October. We know October is more busier than May. We know September is busier than June. So you start adding all this information, and that database becomes so important. We make decisions. So when we're making decisions on how many trips we want, we look back at last year, and we have a grid of the last 5 years, and we can see what days are coming in, what time of the year, other than weather, can affect us. So we start using that and planning your business model. So anyways, I'll shut up.